All right. Welcome if you're here. We'll be getting started in probably about 5 or 10 minutes.
I met you last time. I'm so sorry. I mean, like just like listening. Oh yeah. I got the letter in the office. I have to introduce them up front. Well, yeah, it feels like a lot of pieces. If I had to do a tea, I always want to have coffee. I really like to read it again. I am. I'm a little nervous about my story, but I haven't read it before. I mean, I've read it at home myself a lot of times. Yeah. I totally agree. You're not really doing it now. Have you read it in years? I don't know. I just like more like I just don't know. One of my favorite things I ever watched was performance of Whiskey and Pie, and it was about like pie and such recipes and things about pie. And okay, I think there may have been. I don't really know, but it was great. Okay. Maybe I'll ask Mario to do like curious and then maybe I'll. But I also like I'm a prolific smoker. So that's true. That would be fun, I suppose. You could just do like partners. I watched it. So there's a scene where she's like what she learned that she goes to like a club and she'll just try out things and she'll no card. Did you see that scene? I don't remember. So she's just do a joke and then just kind of throw the card. So it could be like that. Like they do one of those here in the house, like anything like that too. That's like you're supposed to bring something not very when did you do that? Oh yeah, okay. I'll look for that. Maybe. You have a cat. I just been pulling to see how last night was. I feel like last night was maybe a rough night, like in the air. Our cat had a really rough night. Yeah, and it seemed like it was more like. Definitely pressure changes and things like that. Yeah, pressure. Yes, okay. Yeah, we had a lot of stuff. Yeah, that. Yeah, that's true. That's great. Yeah. I'm so happy. March, it was like, okay, we're gonna have a grow this summer. And then one day I was going to pedal and I just pulled the pedal over here and I just just let me want to run it.
Back to the lunch time. Okay. Yeah, I live back there. Yeah, we'll go to the hardware up there. Yeah, very good hardware. It's very good hardware store.
It is.
I like their
Yeah.
Have you seen
This website. They have and like expanding stuff too. Now they have like that's so cute. Like it's so cute.
That's fun.
Yeah, it's just kind of.
That's so.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of the name of what it is. It's a light color of the French soap. And citrus one. They don't sell it, but I think they have it. And it's like,
Yeah.
Like, and they like go and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
it's so
I do too.
Which I can remember, I'll try to look it up. Again, they don't have it in every place. They do.
really nice too. So I think we're glad you know like what you did. And then the next one
With your dollar. So,
I remember the
yeah, I think so. So you're gonna have like three there. So that's what we're like the one down. I mean, if that happens today.
Okay. And there's like almost years like
Okay, I've tried that one. I will go. They opened at Grillbird. Have you been to Grillbird? They had it in West Seattle. It's like a teriyaki place. And they opened one in Austin. We would drive to West Seattle.
That's very good.
And they have one for very good.
We have our favorite teriyaki machine. So she loves it.
Yeah. No, I told her. So you like go there and like not teriyaki. And then it would be a full.
Yeah. Okay.
You'd be like, we're gonna go not teriyaki.
My son loves to go to
Oh, yes, it has. What's special about mixed bread?
It's ice cream.
Yes. Okay, but there's not like 3 or 4, like what you say. Okay. Yeah.
It's like that beauty, but also
But not concerning when it comes to ice cream, but like that one.
we did do the one that was like in the North Station or something. We're North Gate, I would go back there, but
So was it like a basket or maybe it was like a behind?
it was a little big, and they also had like a restaurant next door. It was like, it was very small. Should be okay. I think they kind of made their own ice cream. It was very simple.
Yeah. He's what it was. I'm a fan of that one.
I just wanted to make sure I said hi from the. I should have No, that's right. I just tried to be.
Hello, good evening.
Thanks. Right.
Good evening.
Yeah, excuse me for interrupting any conversations. It's all about community here at Collections, and we will have a chance to chat. I just wanted to get things started. We have our live stream happening over here. We have our archive being happening over here, so we're getting two great angles on that. And thank you so much to the Hugo House. I feel very, I'm reticent to say blessed, but I'm just going to go ahead and say I feel blessed to be able to advocate for other writers and to be able to present collections every month. And thank you also to Jason, who is wandering around just now, trying to perhaps monitor my voice level for the classes over here. But Jason, thank you so much for being the impetus to this happening and inviting me and inviting Collections and inviting all of us really. The good news that I have for everybody is that Hugo House just extended an invitation for us to do this throughout 2026. So we're not going anywhere anytime soon. So that's very exciting. Now, sadly, my friend Sarah fell ill with a virus. She was going to bless us with some poetry tonight, but I'm going to go ahead and read in her stead. I have some other good news. It's more about me and less about us, but last week I finished the first draft of my children's novel. So I'm super excited about that. Thank you so much. It caused a 3-year pause on my writing of my adult novel, which I got back to today. And I was excited to get back to it, so I wanted to share the first few pages with you all. It's a road story about twin cousins. I'd like to think of it as an epic, but we'll see. I'm halfway through my 5th draft of this book. I've been working on it for over a decade, and so I'm really excited to bring some of it to you today. Here's to finishing things. Chapter 1, Ocean Beach and Obi Pier. Jesus Johnson stood by the old dry water pump and played his mandolin. His instrument was polished and cared for. His bare chest was inflated and reflected the bright San Diego sun like a song. The mandolin, his appendage, traveled with him always. While often played, sometimes it dangled at his waist by the thin leather strap that rubbed the back of his neck, and it formed a callus like those on his fingertips. He strummed and finger-picked, cool and casual, and sang with confidence, as if his voice were tethered to the sky. I'm going to pause right there because I did not tell you this project is called Jesus Johnson. I sat near him on the stump, drew circles in the grass, and listened to that soundtrack of my life, my brother, twin cousin, tapping and scratching at the tiny piece of wood that announced the bluegrass that lived in his bones. Are you ready yet? He asked. When is he supposed to get here? Any minute. I'll never be ready. We stayed by the pump and waited for Uncle Luis while Jesus played. It was finally time for us to leave, and the torture of waiting for our uncle was killing me. Mama Rosa and Mama Maria came outside. Mama Rosa smiled, snapped her fingers, and danced to the music. Mama Maria scowled and squinted and blocked her eyes. Mama Maria was gorgeous, and though I called her Mama, she was actually my aunt. She had the kind of face that everyone remembers: smooth skin, deep-set eyes, and wavy, almost curly hair that fell down past her shoulders and invited the wind. The day she gave birth to Jesus, the same day Mama Rosa gave birth to me, Mama Maria became my everything. We were the same, she and I, soft on the inside, soft on the outside. She told me once, when I was just 11, she dreamed of walking along the Seine. She yearned to wander along the banks of the river forever and stop at the local markets to discuss the various qualities of wine. She knew a Parisian woman was her soulmate, but she also knew she would never meet her. That day, we harvested almonds from the scraggly tree nested between the lemon tree and the chain link fence in our little yard overlooking the ocean. I will never fall in love. Paris is a world away, she said. You should go. Why don't you? I can't. Rosa needs me. You need me. I come last. I don't need you. I'm not going anywhere, even if I do belong there, she said. She stopped pulling almonds and wept. Seeing Mama Maria cry was nothing new to me. She liked to say she had tears every day for breakfast. That's what I loved about Mama. She was clever and dark at the same time, just like me. She would come out of her room, wiping her red eyes, tell me she was purified, fill a glass of water, pound it back with a gasp, and say she was fueling up for tomorrow's cry. Mama Maria was good at making me laugh, but she sucked at staying hydrated. Why don't you do something for yourself? I can't, she said. We gathered the almonds in silence. Angel, promise me you will be who you are. Don't be like me. But I am like you, Mama. She formed me with her pain. Her tears molded me into what I was, ruined before I was made. She lifted her basket and left me in the yard. So there we were, next to the water pump, waiting for our uncle. I looked at the trees and thought about Mama Maria while Jesus played. I had to leave to keep my promise and find out who I was. Uncle Luis was never on time for anything. I walked down to the beach and left them all hanging around the pump. Even from the pier, down the bluff from the house, I could see Jesus, standing like a beacon, singing like a bird. Jesus Johnson was bent on making it big, and I was his inconvenient mirror with 1,000 doubts and 1,000,000 fears. I felt safe in his shadow. He expanded as I contracted, and he was happy to take up the space meant for the both of us. He kept his straight brown hair over his ears, and his muscular arms looked like they were meant for hauling logs or lifting the world. He was bronzed and chiseled, athletic and firm. His deeply rippling thighs could only provoke a swoon as they came to a conclusion in his round ass. Mama Maria said I was beautiful, but he was handsome. She even said handsome with a little sneer, like she resented his hard body and preferred my softness, my baby face, round like Mama Rosa's and sullen like hers. My eyes were mysterious, while JJ's were inviting. He was upright and proud. I couldn't muster the same exuberance. He was magnanimous, popular, adored by all, except Mama Maria. That's how it was. She hated him and loved me. She would sit me in her lap and stroke my hair and kiss my face and tell me I was beautiful. I despised that word, beautiful. It made me feel too much. All of Mama Maria's sadness, Mama Rosa's silent judgments, JJ's indifference, my pain and the pain of the world, resting like ulcers on my tight and frightened stomach. I wanted to be ugly, undesirable, unnoticed. I sat on Ocean Beach, which we all called OB, under the pier that had destroyed me. Jesus had compelled us to leave so he could get away from Mama Maria. Mama Rosa had finally relented. And our dads? How would we ever find them? I heard his mandolin before I saw him. He positioned himself behind me, kicked a little sand on me, and sang. I contemplated the pull of the sea and watched the sandpipers run through the undertow. But Jesus was stronger than the ocean, and it was the pull to follow him to heaven, or whatever South Carolina was, that proved to be stronger than the tides. Uncle Luis called, JJ said, he'll be here in 5. I'm scared. I don't think I want to go. It's going to be amazing on Hill. Don't you want to get out of here? Don't you want to see the world? What if we never come back? I wouldn't miss it, he said. I looked up at the boards of the pier and listened to the footsteps. I thought about that night with the Irishman. He had ruined San Diego. I had to go, and I knew it. I stood up, brushed the sand off my legs, whispered farewell to my home, muttered a little thank you to the waves, and put my faith in Jesus to get us to the other ocean. Let's go, I said. Thank you all so much. It feels good to pull that thing back out. I want to now bring up our next writer here. River Elizabeth Hall, she, her, is a poet and naturalist with degrees from Fairhaven College and Antioch University. She graduated from the Wilderness Awareness Schools Immersion Program in 2014 and is certified in wildlife track and sign. Her work has appeared in Bear Review, Main Street Rag, Moist Poetry, Nimrod, Parentheses Journal, and Tinderbox, among others. She is a 2023 Best of the Net nominee and winner of Tinderbox Poetry's 2022 Majda Game Editors Prize. In 2021, she was a semifinalist in the Floating Bridge Chapbook Competition and was longlisted for both the Palette Poetry Prize and the Frontier Open. Here tonight with some lyric poetry and prose poetry with an emphasis on sound and shape. Please welcome River Elizabeth Hall.
My little timer here. How's everybody doing? I'm really glad that I'm going early on because I get a little bit of nerves. This way I can listen to everybody. Really focus. Can you guys hear me okay? No? I'll speak up a little bit with that. I'm kind of tall, so I'm a little bit far from the microphone. I'm excited to hear everybody else read tonight too. I'm going to start with some prose poetry. I've been writing a lot of prose poetry for the last year, and these are untested on an audience, so I'm excited to share them with you. This is called The Audacity of Everything Else. Somewhere, someone sat at a piano and began to play. At the same moment, someone else experienced reticence or awe. A siren wound down to a groan as a fire truck slowed to a stop. Perhaps another person was saved. Everything took one step closer to the end. The tree you chose continued to sway and grow imperceptibly in the dark. The wind moved over your skin. It took your dwindling warmth and moved on to touch other things. Hundreds of miles away, the hands of my watch spun at set speeds, unchanged. From just outside the thin scrim of sleep, I watched an insect crawl the walls of my tent. A tiny shadow backlit by moonlight, searching for a way out. Out there, I felt too small against the size of the silence to sleep. I checked my phone, which drifted in and out of service, only mustering a single bar. Then a circle slashed by a line. Nothing came through. Hours later, the wind shifted just so, and the single text lit what remained of the night. By dawn, I was furious with the birdsong. I crushed my pitch tent into the trunk of my car, and in the far corner of a rest stop parking lot somewhere in Oregon, I screamed until my throat caught fire. I made phone calls to people who didn't know what to say. At some point, I noticed your Instagram continued to get likes from strangers and people who didn't know. They admired your final painting in progress and the wooden doll you were halfway through carving as a gift for your niece. For years, they clicked a slow pulse of little red hearts, momentarily admiring the beauty your life created, free of the weight of your demise. When they stopped, that too was absurd. This one is called Recent Lesser Known Extinctions. Joy without the burden of imminent demise. Guiltlessly enjoying the zoo and aquarium. Repressed internal schadenfreude. Withholding one's political opinion. Disappointingly rainy summers. Everyone's parents still alive. Normalized binge drinking. The middle ground. The olive branch. Discreet wealth. No visible scars. Buying something without an app or a subscription. A Gen X friend group without a suicide. Not the frogs, but the way they filled the quiet corners of the evening, coughing unself-consciously in dense crowds. Distant, cartoonish demagogues. A warm and forgiving Jesus Christ. Bugs exploding like fireworks on the windshield on a gentle summer night, with the windows down and your arms reaching out and your skin rippling in the rush of air and the volume of your new favorite song nearly destroying the speakers. And you know every word, but the music and the wind is so loud you can't hear yourself singing. You can just feel the burn in your throat. And your eyes water, but you aren't crying, and the future stretches out, unknown and unwritten, but so much more certain. I brought along a little weirdo poem. This is a poem crafted after a section of a long poem by Christopher Smart. Many of you may know it. He was a poet of the mid-1700s who was an influence on Browning and Yeats and John Clare and William Blake. And he's kind of seen as like one of their forerunners now by some. He developed sort of religious mania around 1750, and this compelled him into continuous prayer. He ended up being institutionalized for most of the rest of his life. And during that time, he wrote some of his most famous poems. One of them is called Jubilate Agno. And the most famous section that remains from that poem, it's like a fragment of it, is a really charming piece about his cat named Joffrey. And if you're not familiar with this poem, please Google Christopher Smart cat poem and it will show up. It's really lovely. It's sort of it has an interesting repetition to it, and I modeled my poem after that. But instead of observing a cat, I observed my neighbor from a window when I lived in a rural area a number of years ago. It's called Making the Lawn Great Again. For I will consider my retired neighbor who fusses relentlessly upon his many acres of grass. For he is a servant of the living God, duly and daily serving him. For he wears the red hat with confidence and free of shame. For in spring, he rises at dawn's break to meet the glory of the day with fire and blade. For first, he fills the riding mower's tank to the brim with gasoline. For second, he swings his leg over the plastic seat as though mounting a steed and rides forth. For third, he battles the weeds with a gallon of Roundup, which he sprays thusly from his mount. For his emerald lawn is already mercilessly rid of mole and vole. For his vegetable garden is guarded with electrical wire. For his blueberry bushes are covered in mesh to deter the theft of sparrow. For he considers the dandelion and the thistle a scar on the face of God, for they threaten to disrupt the edges of the causeway to the tabernacle he calls garage. For when he is finished, he stands upon the highest point and casts his satisfied gaze, for all is quiet and quieted. For 7 days pass, and there is dismay, for the chemical bath laid upon the green has failed him, for the rising clover doth offend him, for the moss in the lawn encroacheth upon sacred grass, and the wild cleaver rises from a crack in the causeway. For with persistence and slowness, all of it awaits his neglect. For he must soldier on in vain, for he is made in the image of God, and God in his image. This one is called Poem for Roadkill. What if we pulled over, got close enough to feel the death rattle shake the air against our skin, offered regret for getting in the way with our roads, our tires, our glass? What if we didn't abandon them to the cement until there was nothing but a dark stain, a rope of hide, a splintered bone? What if we cut the dwindling warmth of the struck bird, held it long enough that it cooled in our hands, shed tears onto feathers of bent throat and broken wing? What if we took them to the woods, an offering given over in kinship with maggot and crow? What if we took the time to give them to the soil, death greening life for future living? What if broken raccoon, stilled possum, and lagging deer fawn were adorned with roadside flowers and grieved, piled high by passers-by with the dandelion, the hawksbeard, red clover, the beautiful weeds? Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much, River. That was exciting. So it seems so far that our theme is a warm Jesus. I had to note that down. Yeah, it's interesting. When I started collections, when Jason and I started collections back in April, it was just us and our closest friends kind of getting together. And River's a great example of how the community is expanding, and it's so great to be meeting writers through Hugo House, through collections. And River, that was excellent poetry, and I really appreciate you reading it for us tonight. So I wanted to point out too, our QR code back here, and you might see some of our cards laying around. You're welcome to take those with you. There's a QR code on the back. That will take you to the webpage for collections where you can stay up to date on who's reading month to month. Also, the archives are there where we post these readings so that they can live on. Since we have that technology now, us Gen Xers. So cool. So let's find out what's next. We're going to go now to our live magazine portion of the evening, and what that means is we have a couple of video performances for those of you that haven't been here before. Each night we that shows some people that don't live in town that have sent videos in beforehand. This next one is offbeat memoir meets freewheeling meditation on his stuff, and is based on a true story. And this is a poem called From the Horde. So please welcome the Horde explorer, Eric Leuschner. Excuse me, everyone, just a little issue here with the sound. I'll get it fixed in a moment. Yeah, I think it's just muted. This is muted? Yeah, let's just start it over.
Howdy, Hugo House. Thanks for having me back. This is the Horde Explorer, and I recently just got back from a Alaska cruise. I've never actually been on a cruise before, and I enjoyed it a lot more than I expected to, especially considering that in a former life, I would have found it just laughably egregious in its excesses. And by former life, I mean the mid-1990s, right around when I met Ariel here. Thanks, Ariel, for having me back. Back then, I got a job with Princess. I was booking not cruises, but packaged overland tours of Alaska, and it heavily featured trains and sleeping cars and such. While the job was primarily tied to a computer and a phone, there were still physical file cabinets and all that stuff. And at the time, I was really into the Situationists. So I would photocopy bits of Raoul Vaneigem's 1967 book, The Revolution of Everyday Life, on the company Xerox machines. And I would slip whole chapters of it into random folders in these filing cabinets that were lying all around. And I could get away with it because I worked Sundays and I was practically the only one in the building. And at the time, I saw that as kind of a message in a bottle, hoping to contact fellow lost souls and all that and inspire them to resist the humiliation and mediation of capitalist bondage. But in retrospect, I was just deeply resentful of having to have a job in the first place at all. And I was brimming with all the kinds of conceits of youth and poetry. And I was particularly contemptuous of the folks whose tours I booked. You know, people that I never met in person, but I visualized them as these sort of doughy bourgeois rubes with nothing more imaginative to do with their brief time on this planet. Shortly after that, I dropped out of the workforce, went back to college. So I guess I dropped out of being a dropout. I went back to school and I majored in creative writing. It's an effective ploy for forestalling re-entry into the workforce. And you can make the case that this was my way of sabotaging my future employability. Fast forward 30 years and I'm sitting here unemployed and I'm digging around in my suitcase of notebooks and scrapbooks and I find this collection of poems by my cohort at the Evergreen State College. The following was my submission to that publication, and I submit it to you, or resubmit it to you, to bring it full circle, fully embracing the irony. So, northbound on the Midnight Sun Express, Tom Scootin and Peanut are drinking. Coca-Cola out of spite for their bodies as the doll sheep walk the dirt road north in silence. The murky Arctic tundra is drenched in the flash bulbs of diabetic tourists. Tom is chair-bound. Constitution sleeps, flowing tandem to the Alaska pipeline. Spooky Moo Moo eats baby food and is under medication, as we've noted in the itinerary. Get a chance to eat with the oil workers, cry the lonesome oil rigs. But the old ladies have all gone deaf, and the walkmen encrust in the heads of the children with glacial earwax. The insomniac sun spells adventure in broad, windswept brochures, or so says Mrs. Pootswinge from the faraway 14th floor of the Captain Cook. But she is not here on the world's smooth and empty head. She will only ever pay money to sample the caribou's indifference and awe. She will never, ever volunteer to swim in the ice or raise a team of white dogs for her sled, or be fat and warm in the company of Eskimos. Cold Foot is a truck stop and nothing more, and Peanut weeps like a baby for want of a real North Pole. They all roll along, passed out on these beds of trail necks and introspection, unable to kill time under such a big sky. Thanks again for having me back, Hugo House and Ariel. I hope to see you again someday. If you liked this poem or you want to razz me about anything, go to portexplorer.com and we can make a deal.
Thank you, Horde Explorer. If you are here on the live stream, I hope you enjoyed seeing your poem live in front of an audience. It's nice to have these videos because Horde Explorer Eric is in Portland. Later, we'll see one from a friend of mine in Dallas. Sometimes we have folks in New York. I'm working on my friend in Serbia. Hopefully she'll send us something at some point. But it's just nice to be able to not only be here, but also be other places. Horde Explorer is partially responsible for reuniting Jason and I, so we thank him very much for being part of the impetus to collections. I do want to bring up our next reader. Isla Maketa is the author of Polska, 1994, editions checkpointed, and a co-author of Clear Out the Static in Your Attic, a writer's guide for turning artifacts into art, Write Bloody. She earned an MFA in creative writing at Goddard College in Port Townsend, Washington, and has served on the board of Seattle City of Literature and at the Hugo House. Isla makes her home in Seattle, where she writes fiction, poetry, and book reviews. Find her on the web at ilamaketa.com. And here with some feminist fiction that breaks silence, please welcome Isla Maketa.
Thanks everybody for being here tonight, and thank you, Ariel, for having me back. I really appreciate it. The piece I'm reading tonight is just over the time limit, but I tried really hard to cut it, and it connects to Port Townsend. So if any of you have a relationship with Goddard or with Port Townsend, you'll know the spot that I'm talking about in this short story. It's called The Tides. The night before their big beach adventure, S read a story where a family overstays the tides and ends up scrambling up a sheer sand cliff to prevent tragedy. S knew just what to envision, having seen hundreds of pictures of imposing bluffs in the blog post she'd read about the sea glass beach she and Z were heading for. 6 miles of sand and rock, the only route to the former town dump where treasure now lay. Or maybe there was no treasure, depending on which influencer you believed. Some showed pictures of piles of salt-washed gems in every hue ever known to glass, along with shards of what used to be fine china. Some claimed the pictures were seeded with finds from other places, the Victorian detritus having been picked over long ago. They didn't care. They wanted the adventure. They needed it after the pandemic, and years of corporate restructures and layoffs made tech life a lot less appealing. They weren't ready for van life, exactly. That seemed over anyway. But a long walk toward the end of the proverbial rainbow seemed like a chance to get some perspective. The story scared S, but she didn't want to let it stop her, so she laughed it off with Z at a pre-dawn breakfast. Then she laughed off having mixed up the days on the online tide table. They'd need the tides in their favor, and the error gave them an extra hour or so, she thought, but now she couldn't help questioning that too. Z wasn't inclined to beach walks. He liked coffee shops in the city, but he was inclined toward S. So they packed their picnic of vegan wraps, ample water, and a couple of power bars to keep fueled on the hike. He had his camera, and she her phone to record their awesomeness. S was a little disappointed that the maps showed cell service the whole way from the parking lot to the very end of the point. But she knew it would be helpful if they needed it. They both wore the best shoes they could find advertised online, waterproof but comfortable for long hikes over terrain. They did not know to break the shoes in. It was foggier than they'd expected when they parked. Neither was used to maritime climates. In fact, the fog seemed to be thickening with the rising sun rather than burning off. The beach was sandy for the first 50 feet. Beyond was another 10 feet of pebbles and then fist-sized rocks, still wet with the retreating tides. Farther out, they could see scatterings of large rocks darkened by waves of ribbons of seaweed. Kind of spooky, eh? S asked. I like it, it's romantic. She smiled. I guess. I thought we might be able to see the point from here, but no luck. Well, according to the online maps, we can't get lost. And we'll have the foghorns for company. Okay, those are a little spooky. Found one. He bent over and picked up a clear disc the size of his pinky nail. Here, he said, handing her the first jewel of the trip. We're going to be so tired of bending over by the end of the day, right? Theoretically, this will all be here when we get back, but I always feel like I won't see it again. They burned time dawdling and sifting in places that should have been picked over but weren't, covered with small, clear and amber bits, common but too delightful to resist at this early stage. They talked about how stuck they felt, the opportunities they'd missed, chances to make even bigger money so they could already be out. How could they know what was enough? Another plink into the plastic bag S held. What were they working to achieve anyway? S felt mired, tiring quickly of the tiny pieces, so she picked up her pace. Z grabbed a few more gems and caught up, noting that she hadn't looked back. He didn't know what she was looking toward. The fog was still that thick, but he recognized her determination. Wouldn't want to be on the wrong side of one of these in a storm, Z said, looking up at the wash of sand pyramided at the base of the cliff. Shh, it's falling right now. And it was, a pebble having started a trickle that became a mouse-sized avalanche. Was it the wind, their voices, an animal above? They kept walking down the widening beach. Z paused to take a picture of a heron perched at the edge of the sea. He's posing for you, she teased. He is. I feel like I can breathe here, even with the dense fog. I know what you mean. A plunk alerted S to a hole in the blue newspaper bag she was carrying. I knew this would be too thin, but I thought I'd checked it, she nodded the bottom. It's probably the shells or the sand rubbing the seams. Do you have another? You know me. She pulled a wad of plastic from her backpack and enveloped the first bag in a second. I hate to think of what we lost on the way. We'll find anything important on the way back. Though they could no longer see the houses on the increasingly high cliffs, there were remains of stairs that must have once gone all the way down and an arch that now led to a fateful drop. At the base of the cliff, owners had and had not tried to protect their property in various ways. A fence of standing logs, a natural slope, poured concrete that no longer met the receding cliff face, so the tides clearly now washed behind it. I wonder how long that will last, S said. I wonder how it got there. Did they drive a cement mixer down the beach? Z pointed out the strata in the cliffs, a dark sliver of clay, a crumble of volcanic ash. Why do some of the layers have small rocks and others larger, S asked. It's the speed of the glaciers, but I can't remember if big means slow or fast. Let me get a picture of you with that one. Shot rock, she said, touching the boulder that was taller than their SUV by half. She sucked in her stomach and cheeks, making sure he got the right angle, still not certain if he'd gotten her curling joke. His taste for random sports had never matched hers. She sped up again, walking alone and not looking back. He was there. She trusted that. She knew he'd catch up. He did, though more slowly this time as he was uncovering hermit crabs. She didn't slow again until reaching a field of pebbles worth digging through. Look at the gulls dive bombing that rock, he said. That's amazing, she said, not looking up. And I think that's another heron. Are you sure it's not following us? She plucked only the pieces larger than a coin now. I am not. Did you see the thatches of grass up above, like it's only their roots keeping them hanging because the sand is below them is long gone? That grass patch halfway down probably used to be up top. A second life for it, not a tragedy. You're always the optimist. He wrapped his arms around her. That's what you like about me. It is. I was thinking if the tides came in, we could scramble up that upside-down tree trunk. Look, a cave, he pointed to where water had worn away the underside of the cliff and someone had embedded a row of driftwood as a window. That does not look safe. It's probably dry in all but the highest tide. It's the roof caving in on you that I'd worry about. The fog's clearing a bit. I can see the next bend in the beach, she said. And maybe beyond that even. They held hands for a while, but it made it harder to collect glass and shells, so she pulled away and resumed her complaints about the workaday. We need to figure out what we want, she said. He displayed 3 amber gems in his hand before depositing them in the sack. She hadn't noticed. We can get through this, you know. We're pretty lucky to have options. You're pretty lucky, she said, making eyes at him. I am, he said, and kissed her head. He let her loose and said, I think we're 2/3 of the way there, if the blister on my heel is any indication. Have you checked your phone? I am still getting service, 5G even, but sometimes it's from Canada. Is that what I see out there, she asked. No, that's a fog bank. I can tell by the boat in the middle. They held hands, walking fast into the future. She confessed how scared she'd been after reading the story. I know it's silly. It's not silly, but we're prepared. But on the way here, there have been all these little signs. Like what? Like misreading the tide table, the hole in the bag. I know you're relying on me, and I don't feel like I can trust myself. I trust you, and you're relying on me too. I am? Yes, watch this. He set up his phone on a log and flipped it to selfie mode, then gathered her near the largest boulder they'd seen yet. He snapped their smiles. Selfie rock, she said. I do rely on you. I know, you just don't like to be reminded of it. It makes you feel weak. It does. You aren't, though, weak in being human. Arms around each other, their gaits found a rhythm. Z saw a head bob above the distant waterline, then a second. They stopped to watch the river otters dive in constant play. Slick heads surfacing, submerging until their thin tails whipped through the air in a final flourish. Then S checked her smartwatch. We need to get going. We have to be at the point by turn of tide. The beach grew harder to walk on, with rocks the size of pomegranates. S trudged forward, though Z was there when she staggered. She had visions of one of them falling, breaking their head open on a stone. How would anyone help them out there? They hadn't seen another person in at least an hour. Even with cell service, no boat could pull up in the rocky shallows. When his hand caught her elbow after another stumble, she said, You know, I always take comfort when the beach is widest. But I'm wrong, aren't I? It's wide here because it's flat. The water, when it starts coming in, it will rush up so quickly. He slipped more glass into the bag. We're almost there, look, he pointed at the point, clearly visible for the first time. We are, look, there's a cobalt piece. And violet, these are rare. Not large, but rare. They quickened their steps only to find the rocks were wet and still very slippery. Ahead of them now, the narrow beach, were massive logs and schools of seaweed teeming with sandflies. It stinks here, doesn't it? She admitted. It does, like things don't properly wash away. He was walking ahead of her, picking a path. She tried to climb over a fallen log, but she got high-centered, afraid to jump down the other side. He turned back to help. I can do this, I just can't when I'm carrying everything, she said, not meaning the backpack or the bag of glass. He took the bag from her and she found her own footing down. It wasn't long before they found the insides of an old washing machine. We've arrived, she said. Look, that's enamel. It must be so old. She realized the inside was plastic. Still, the way it was half eaten away was cool. I'm glad we're stopping soon. My feet are getting wobbly, he said while photographing the washer from all angles. Look, there are some sea beans just above the logs. The tide must not reach that shelf often. Look at the whorls in the cliff. The winds here must be immense. A tire. It's a whole axle. Who drops their car off a cliff? Maybe it was an accident. The edges up there are twisty with trees, she said. I wonder how old this is. I wish I knew about cars to say. We're almost there. Let's get to the point and then eat, said Z. Good idea. My water's half empty already. They passed the remains of an uprooted tree that raised its remaining limbs to the heavens like a hand rising from the grave. I'm glad we've come, but I won't be sorry to go back, he said. Me either. It was hard not to push forward, but that last hour was a slog. Hey, the wind's changed. This must be the edge. Someone sang from above in a language they did not recognize. We aren't as alone as we thought, S shuddered. People live along here the whole way, on crumbling lots. Yep, about 5 acres, still have 4 left. I wonder what it's like to watch your life literally erode. Sometimes you're just ready to leave it up to the fates. I don't think I'd do that. You wouldn't, she poked him in the side. They took more pictures to prove that they'd done it, to themselves, to others. I think it's time to head back, said Z. Yeah, the tide's turning, I can hear it. That and the weather's picked out. I think I remember the easiest routes. Let me lead. And he did, weaving from hard sand to gravel to the gentlest bits of the rocky sections. But any time she looked up, he was farther ahead and not looking back. She began to get discouraged and slow even further. He wouldn't have heard her if she'd called out between the wind and the water that really was rising fast as they reached that flat part of the beach. He was carrying everything, and still she couldn't keep up. He looked back often, but her head was always down, like she needed to pull inward to pull ahead. He knew that about her, but still he worried. She didn't do well behind, so he slowed. He turned at high-centered log to wait and give her a hand, but he couldn't see her. He called her name, but there was no answer. The water was rushing back, the wide beach suddenly narrow. He started charging toward where she should have been. There was no one on the rocky shore, no place for her to hide. And when he looked back to the way out, that was washed out too. He looked up to the little shelf they'd spotted earlier. He could climb to that, but she wasn't there. He could sit out the next 12-some hours until the beach opened up, but he couldn't believe she was gone. Was it the water? Some animal pacing them? The man they'd heard singing? It all seemed impossible, but he was alone and the cliff was crumbling under his feet as he raced to that one high shelf. When he reached it, he remembered his phone. He called her, but he got voicemail. He tried again and again and again and again, and then he called 911. When the helicopter came for him, he was crouched on that ledge against the sheer cliff face, alone but alive.
Yeah. Thank you, Isla. I don't think I ever hiked that far. I also had my MFA at Goddard College. I did not meet Isla there, but we had mutual friends, and Goddard College was, and some of the salons we did there were a huge inspiration to this. We used to hang out after all of our coursework was finished. We'd go over to where we were staying in the quarters, and we'd have these 5-minute reading slots, and maybe a dozen of us would read to each other. Sometimes people would be very strict with the time. You'd be halfway through a poem, and someone with a stopwatch would be like, time. You'd be like halfway through your poem. It's like, come on. But so yeah, we're not strict about that here, because that's just not right. But it's really great to have a fellow Goddard alum here, and it's really great to have getting to know you, Isla. Thank you for your work. We are going to take a little break now, and then we'll do this again, another set in about 10 minutes. So if you need to use the restroom, it's that way. Maybe visit Jason for a drink if you like, or hang out. We'll be back on stage in about 10 minutes. Thanks so much.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow. How's it going? Good. Come in. This is Greg Zach.
I will try not to too much.
Someone needs to do something. Yeah.
It was like awkward sitting.
Yeah.
So, what, or do you want a flavored one, or just like some soda? Blood orange, limonada, or melon. Yeah, you want a
Melon
beer?
here.
Melon.
I'm trying not to drink so much sugar.
Yeah, well, alcohol's the way to go. So you want one of those? Sky cracker.
The other one.
It's my first time I've actually been to the new.
Oh, really?
Which is wild.
Yeah. How, I don't remember. Has it been like Long time.
Yeah.
6 or 7 years. Probably.
I used to have a work at a studio just like on 11 on the other side.
Still didn't go.
Well, it got torn down
Yeah.
when I was still there.
Yeah.
The old, I think so.
Yeah. Yeah.
When did the new one open?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I
it was
moved
after-
away in 2017.
Yeah.
And it just, I
Yeah,
still
it's a
kind of got
lot.
like a stasis of it in my brain. Like, this is different.
It's a lot different. Yeah.
But my old studio's at CrossFit space. So I still have the same lights and everything I installed, but I can see them up there. Like, this is,
Oh, really?
Weird that like
Oh, that's
they've done nothing to it, and they're just people exercising. Their legs and painting. So
They have your own lights.
yeah,
With the conversion.
yeah. Well, when I moved down, people from Capitol Prairie took it over as office space, and then because like Umos had their offices up there.
Oh,
Yeah. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, lost hours, what exactly, but I've seen people like exercising down there. I have friends who work out in this space, so. Yeah.
You said,
Yeah, do you know where Sun Liquor, like Top Pot?
Yeah.
I'm like a block away from that. So, yeah. So opposite side kind of Capitol. So yeah.
Jim was saying you were in Elvis like for
Yeah, from like 2017 to 2020. So
I've been back for it.
my girlfriend was like, now my got a work promotion. She worked for a show, and they had some offices down there. Team started working on down there as the worst offices or whatever. So we moved down, and then we found out that her boss was in New York, and she was just going to be working with people remotely down there. So there was no reason we moved down there. And she did that for a couple of years, and then COVID. Whole experience of us like, I like Los Angeles a lot, but it was like high highs, low lows, and North San Diego County, so like an hour north of San Diego and an hour and a half south of Los Angeles.
Okay.
So it's still San Diego County, but it's like in between.
That's what I'm
No,
I don't know.
so I'm inland, so we're really surprised. So, Fallbrook is just inland from the ocean side. There's a really big marine base that you can drive through that kind of separates San Diego and Orange County. So it's like 35 miles of just like freeway driving with nothing. But yeah, it's driving over kind of. Okay, so we were in Silver Lake area, historic Filipino town. If you really know geography, some people will like call you out on that. Like we're like 2 blocks over the freeway, so it's technically different.
Yeah,
I like it.
It seems like there's like lots of stuff, but probably not there.
Yeah,
And then like it's like seems like you know of things there's lots of stuff.
yeah. Like any given night, there's like an amazing thing. Yeah,
Some of those, yeah.
Like you can't just like go the whole day try to walk around and find stuff.
Yeah, they're all like really good stuff.
Yeah, and I'd meet people. I started working on building websites, or just commercials. Like I never got very far with that. So you meet someone and be like, they live 2 hours away.
Yeah.
And so, and like everyone was over time. So I don't know, our timing. All right, I'm there. Yeah, like the people I worked with had already good work. He had a was working all the time and hated it before. So we had like really different experiences there. So it's kind of like this weird thing we're talking about it. We're like, yeah, there's all these things that I hated
Yeah. But like the effects around so.
Yeah. So it's been 5 years. So yeah, it feels smooth, but it's just like the timeline of sequence of things that, oh wait, that was like a while ago. Yeah. So it's like mentioning like I hadn't been here. I'm like, well, probably been about 10 years that I could have been here, but yeah. So a lot of us were lived in an art space out on Westlake together.
Oh, okay. Oh, you're part of that.
Yeah. So
Craig and I went to the same college.
yeah, we went to wait, were you 2006?
No, I was 2004.
Okay.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. I just knew you from,
Yeah.
Henderson.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
I just have a little bit of a skewed idea of like whenever I graduated.
It's gonna be kind of my
all these
winter.
people, but like a lot of my friends.
But I'm always a little off, you know. You're never wearing
I wasn't sure.
warm enough jacket or.
I know, right? I still like painting.
I think it's this year, and then I moved down to that space that I was renting in July, and I've done it since. So I feel like kind of like I had mental summer, and didn't go through that, and now I'm kind of socializing with people, and it's really good. That's 2 months. But
Yeah, I feel like I read that one.
so I don't have a space. I don't do it anymore. So, but
I'll read this.
I mean, I was doing
Yeah.
art pretty hardcore for a bit, but.
I know, it was old. It's old.
Yeah, but I started, I have a basement and I started
What about the
setting up.
I don't know.
yeah,
I was like, not like, trying like some abstract questions. So I was like, so used to it.
yeah.
But I feel like it's and that's why
One bedroom
I
apartment,
tested
and there's just we keep like reorganizing the apartment, and like, use my desk and get a nice chair.
Yeah, how about
That's
that?
it, it's like, so. I don't know.
Well, I hope, yeah, I mean,
It's really
a lot
nice
of these,
space,
like,
but,
I think I just,
yeah, I was running with the
Or-
space,
coming out in the
which is
next
better than I
couple
thought it would be.
months.
Like, I never.
Like, I feel like once I
I
get
got a
going
friend
a
that
little
said that.
bit,
Yeah,
if I
Like
do
this
like,
every month and every like kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but it's all very,
Got like kind
yeah,
of
but it's like, these
Or like,
journals are
near
so
the-
small, I know.
near the.
It's, I don't know, it's like a community for sure.
Yeah.
By the good
I'm
one.
aware of it.
That's where you.
Yeah,
That's right.
Oh, okay.
that's pretty good.
Um,
Yeah,
Awesome. Yeah.
there's, yeah, but I mean, these are things that are like,
I work at
short.
Magnolia.
And
My dad lives in.
probably, yeah, probably.
It's just like, yeah, doing this like live around things.
Yeah, no, it's, you know, it's something cool
Now
because
it's like
people,
quasi.
they, you know,
Yeah.
they're,
That was nice.
yeah, there's a
How do you?
you see a lot of
Stuff
things.
in the can,
That's great.
Oh, you're expecting. They won't let them.
Yeah.
It's just, that's always been.
And then some of them are,
I feel like, no, I haven't.
but I've also been,
Recently, but it's probably been like, yeah, I feel like I can't say.
I'm doing my
You
own.
should go to a,
Yeah.
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 I'm trying to do better about saying down these things.
Oh, yeah.
Stopped for a
It's
while.
coming.
So.
Yeah, I haven't written it all for a long time.
I don't want to.
Like, feel as good to do yet. Like, I feel like I kind of like dying
This
for
one
this.
is,
Oh, yeah.
it's party for it, so I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't done my body forever. I should do
It's
it.
kind of like, do you remember the old Elliott Bay?
Yes.
Like, that's a big space that's worth checking out. And there's still sheer Catholic.
Yeah.
There's still tons of stuff there. If you go to the.
Yeah, maybe, but
I think it's just, yeah. There was a moment
Yeah.
where like, when I stopped taking art, I just felt like it was like, what are you doing?
I can say that to her. Yeah. Okay.
You felt it just
Yeah.
messing with me or like
Yeah.
seeing that I wasn't doing things,
That's
but I don't really care about it anymore. Now I'm like kind of cooler enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just go see things.
Yeah.
It's nice to see like a younger generation doing stuff.
I'm excited for that.
Yeah. So, but yeah, definitely.
Can't wait to see it. Yeah. It looks good. Yeah.
Transition for me is like.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great.
So like, so I just want to go walk around by myself. But,
Yeah.
see things.
That one-
And I think that's tomorrow, right?
so.
Yeah.
Yeah, my
That one
friends were
is
going
that,
to movie, definitely. But
What's his name? Yeah, not that long ago.
Yeah.
For like.
do you like live in Capitol?
Yeah.
What is that?
Zach lives in Capitol too, but I'm like kind of a hater.
Like,
But I bet if I lived here, I'd be like,
So-
you know what I mean? Because I was a hater about Ballard, and then when I moved there, now
we,
I'm kind of into it.
Brittany and I had this moment. This was like June-ish. We went to the Capitol Art Walk, and we're like walking around. Like, you know, like there's been a bunch of like restaurant closures, and like a lot of things that, like I used to go to at the closing. And we're walking around, and there's just like a band set up on the tennis courts, like playing grunge music. Like it's like there was kind of like this like the kids are all right vibe. It's
Yeah,
like this stuff isn't for me, and I'm totally fine with it. And so it's like all this stuff that was like open for us, for our generation, is closing, and like that's
Oh,
so I'm
yeah.
kind of, I don't know, feeling aged down, but
Yeah.
like it feels fun.
Yeah.
But, I like my our building.
Hello, everybody. When you're ready, we can get started again. All right, so I was really happy with the way the first half went. I was hope everybody else was also, including our friends beyond in the live stream over there. I do like to call Collections not only a live magazine but a public club. It's a little bit of a play on asking everybody to dress up, and thank you very much for dressing up. I really appreciate it. I really like seeing all the cool outfits, and giving myself a chance to get this jacket, for instance. But oh yeah, thank you, Carla. Yeah, I'm very happy with it. And so yeah, I like to think of us as a public club, so it's a play on private club, of course, and just that as a community, we're always trying to bring people in and make sure everybody feels welcome, whether it's for Collections or Hugo House or just in general. You know, I think we need that. I think we need that a lot these days, of feeling welcome and feeling good and feeling with people and connected. I really appreciate all the excellent readers from the first half and all the excellent readers coming up in the second half. It's a really nice mix of poetry and prose tonight, and that's kind of what we go for here. Yeah, so if you haven't read before and you're interested in reading, because we're a public club, we can get a little bit booked out. We only have room for 6, or you could call it 8 readers a night, but do get a hold of me through one of the cards or talk to me at the end of the show, and we can figure out how to do that, because it's all about an expanding and wonderful community. So let's get started now on our second half. Our next reader, James Keith Smith. His work has appeared or is forthcoming in Split Lit Magazine, Moon City Review, Sierra Nevada Review, Pithead Chapel, and others. He grew up in Michigan and now lives in Tacoma, Washington. And here with some short stories, please welcome James Keith Smith.
Hi. Does this go up at all? I guess it doesn't, does it? Oh, I can. I can do it. I'm not really that tall, but this makes me feel better. This first one is called Nearsighted, Farsighted. The optometrist's eyesight is failing. Driving at night, headlights blur, street signs go in red. The optometrist's wife sits beside him, her face an indistinguishable smudge. She reaches over for her cheek, misses. The optometrist wears a white coat, black slacks. He's highly regarded, 4.3 stars, if you can trust reviews. There are outliers, of course. Pompous, says one. Reciting Yeats by heart may not get you many dates, he tells one patient, but it might help get you into Harvard. A little tuft of air in the eyeball. This one or that, he says, flicking the lenses. A little better here or there, he says. The first one, the patient says. No, the second. It's not a trick question, the optometrist says. Sometimes the optometrist wonders if his wife is the one writing the reviews. Inattentive, disorganized. His frame selection is poor and out of style, says one. If only I could see clearly, he thinks, then I might know. What if the optometrist's wife no longer loves him? A prescription changes, he thinks. At home, the optometrist's dog is always chewing the rug, the sofa leg, chewing shoes. He's discovered a hole in the fence. The dog runs away, comes back covered in mud. The dog goes in, the dog goes out. The dog can never make up its mind, in or out. A or B, he asks the patient. So B is better than A? The dog eats one bowl of food each morning, one at night. He always sleeps in the crate beside the red sofa. The children's grades slip, athletic seasons end. During summer, they seem to be around all the time, losing the remote, arguing. And his wife, one week she insists on Italian, the next it's Indian. Manicotti one day, curry the next. She talks and talks on her phone, never stopping to breathe, and the moment she hangs up, hardly a word. A new review describes the optometrist as having let himself go. Nevertheless, it's for 3.5 stars. But most of the reviews are getting worse. Disheveled, distracted. When you talk to him, he has a blank stare. You have an astigmatism, he tells one patient. Yes, I know, the patient says. You know everything, I suppose, the optometrist says. He no longer associates with the Elk Club, and he's forgotten to pay his monthly dues. He's been kicked off the board of a prominent private school for missing 3 meetings. I heard him weeping in the back room, one reviewer claims. The optometrist awakes at night. The comforter's on the ground, the dog out of its crate, pawing at the mattress. He pats for his wife in the dark. Thank you. This one's called Sweet Pea. I've never read it before. It's really short. Let's bury him there in the mulch, I say, where the ground's soft. In my roses, my wife says. The roots of the maple in our yard burrow and twist beneath the foundation of our home, raise the concrete on the sidewalk out front. My shoulder aches. I press the heel of my hiking boot onto the step of the shovel, shift my weight, and the earth crumbles. Whatever I say is going to be wrong, misinterpreted. Yesterday we fought over lentil soup, and now this, our burying the cat fight. Of course, nothing is about lentils or sweet pea. My wife places flowers in the box, rose petals, dandelions, Queen Anne's lace. She plays a Morrissey mix, Sweet Pea's favorite artist, she insists. All this feels over the top for a no-frills stray I found trapped in my cellar long before we ever met. And I can't help but shake the sense that she loves Sweet Pea more in death than she loved him in life. She's been waiting for this. But whenever I'm ready to leave her, there's always some grand gesture, like this, Sweet Pea's funeral. And though I feel a strain in my neck, the sun beating down on my back, I manage to dig the hole and cover poor Sweet Pea with dirt. And my wife is behind me now, watering the roses. Is that a sweet end? I don't even know. Okay, this last one's called Beer and a Shot. I found the most Midwestern bar in San Diego, just 2 blocks from the beach. More Midwestern than most bars in the Midwest. Neon Budweiser signs, peanut shells on the floor, a moose head. When the man with the dog at the end of the bar says, "So, why San Diego?" I don't tell him about my older brother, that he was only 25 and he shot himself. I don't mention that. When I look out into the ocean, I don't feel anything. What I say is this: have you ever been to Michigan in January? The guy with the dog at the end of the bar orders hamburger, Coke and fries, throws the burger patty to the dog, eats the fries. The black dog curls up at his feet. We don't know each other's names. Somehow it's more intimate this way. What did you do before? He asks, because we all had it before. And I show him my hands, need the air, the universal symbol of massage. Ever give a massage to a big fat dude? He asks, which is the most Midwestern thing you can say, even in the most Midwestern bar in San Diego. He describes his pains, torn discs, strained muscles, hardware, but I only half listen. What I also don't tell him is that my brother had a 2-year-old son he never met, and now I'm looking for her, the boy's mother. She's somewhere here in San Diego. She deserves to know. Now I've been here 3 weeks, beachcombing, staring at the ocean, and all I can think about is how everything in California is so expensive. Groceries, the motel room, gasoline, even the air. But this bar, $3 pints, 12 to 6. The windows have blackout blinds. Whenever the door opens, a beam of light cuts through the middle of an empty dance floor. Go into the light, the bartender says, every time. Let me see that picture of the lady again. The man with the dog at the end of the bar says. I slide off my bar stool, a bit unsteady, and catch a look at myself in the mirror behind the counter. I'm surprised by what I see. Strong arms, broad shoulders. This is obviously fiction. Strong arms, broad shoulders. Pretty, the guy says. Who's the dude? Nobody, I say, just some guy. Happy hour's almost over. It's a new crowd. Construction workers, bright orange shirts and hard hats, sunscreen and sweat. Supposedly, Friday nights, the dance floor is packed. This is the place to be, or so says the man with the dog at the end of the bar. Thank you.
Thank you, James. I think our new emerging theme might be beaches. Very cool. I was talking with James earlier, and apparently when I was booking music at the Rendezvous, I booked him a number of times. So that's so cool to full circle and come back here and meet you again. And it's really great. I just love that sort of thing. So welcome, and thank you so much. I want to bring up our next reader now. Rosa Singer is a poet and essayist who lives with a lung transplant. Her writing explores braving the body, intimacy, and the natural world, and interdependence. She holds a graduate degree from La Universidad del Salvador in Argentina, where she was a Rotary World Peace Fellow, and for 15 years worked across continents in the field of gender equity and humanitarian relief. Puerto Rican and the granddaughter of a jazz musician, today she lives, writes, and breathes in the Pacific Northwest, next to a 200-year-old cedar tree. Her chapbook, Clamshell, is forthcoming, and here with some narrative and lyric poetry, as well as a micro essay. Please welcome Rosa Singer.
Hello. Hello.
There's a face under the mask. It's great to be back. See some familiar faces and a lot of new faces too. And to be in community, right? In community. Let's see, tonight I've picked a few poems that I felt are dialoguing with one another. I write a lot about my experience of embodiment, also which entails quite medical narratives and the experience of life before and after a lung transplant, the gift of that, the wildness of that, the suffering of that, the pleasure of that. Also, the way that's in conversation with questions and conversations I'm having about interdependence, my relationship to the natural world, and to others in human form. This first piece is something of a contemplation or meditation. It was written for myself. Maybe it'll speak to you too. How to remember. Blinking cannot keep it from your eyes. And its cool storm reminds you of your thunder. To taste it is joy. Because you love the rain. Not because you want to consume every drip and drop. Not because you are parched. You are both thirsty and not the thirst. You are both child and not a child. You are both the rain and you are not. And so you will tilt your head back, open your mouth wide, stick out your tongue and drink to remember you are enough. You may move in and out of this knowing like water. I've noticed that water is a consistent theme or subconscious obsession in my writing. So this next poem is titled Sailing. Blue eyes like two planets, two globes without water. I wash away the gel of night. I slicked slimy like sea kelp on the whites. Helps the lid glide over the cornea. Most days, lid swollen like oysters when waking, scraping like sandpaper over the surface, the sun a body too bright, its halo of dust and speckle and squint. Eyes, 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 can you see me? I am not the only one suffering. Eyes of dried deserts and parched mouths, eyes of forest fires and no more fish, eyes without birds in them, osprey, eagle, blue heron, because there is nowhere to drink. Eyes where rivers have disappeared, and all I want to do is cry, 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 but I cannot. Only artificial tears in small plastic vials, and plastic packaging, and plastic lenses filled with saline that I band-aid to the surface. And isn't that what we're made of? Salt and water? The eyes afloat in it, the brain, every organ awash, Earth come to life because of it. We go to other planets in search of it. Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, even their moons, like the curious thieves that we are. mentioned, I'm deeply embedded in the medical system, and often my encounters do inspire new writing. Everything from waiting room fish tanks to blood draws to the ice chips that are given after surgery or while waiting in the ER, which many of you might know, is they make you can't eat anything, right, until you're seen. So here's some ice chips. This next piece is towing the line between prose poetry and micro nonfiction, which is a line I'm really enjoying right now. So it's titled Nurse. When I wake to find my feeding tube halfway out my stomach, like a long snake, I decide to pull it out. Its flexible but stiff body rubbing through me the way a straw squeaks through the hole of a soda plastic lid. Its color a reddish brown and covered in goo. I call the hospital, and days later I'm on the operating table in interventional radiology, where the team tells me I shouldn't have pulled it out. The pathway has begun to heal over, and it'll be difficult to reinsert without hospitalization, but they will try. I don't know how to say this next thing, but my heart began to race. Perhaps it was because my eyes grew wide, like silver dollars, or maybe it was the heart rate monitor that tipped her off. But the nurse standing alongside my head with her blue hair cap, gloved hands, and bright green eyes asked me if I'd like to listen to some music. Then she sang to me. She sang every word, knew every song, every lyric. I sang along as they tried to ram and jam the tube through my stomach, pushed in ways they could not numb. She sang, not shy and holding my hand. The entire album and the next, as the surgeon strategized, spoke about what else to try. She and I sang love songs and lost songs, soul and R&B, like a doula helps a woman birth, or a sister or a friend says, I'm with you, sings about our suffering or sings it away. Then, when it was done, she wheeled me to my room, handed me water, a plastic bag of syringes, some gauze and tape, post-op instructions, and a pink post-it note that said, Artist I love, songs for the road. Sometimes I found it necessary to create my own medicine. Poetry is one of those. One's own medicine is really different than a different kind of healing and care than institutional medicine can provide. So this next piece is titled Medicine Bath. Medicine bath. Tonight with a fresh towel hung alongside a prayer, I slide into a tub too tiny and recline. Soak in salts from the Dead Sea, lavender sprigs, clips of daffodils, white carnations tigered with purple, scent of citron, and sigh. Oh, water body, womb, won't you celebrate with me? That I have come to love a body that often tries to leave. Tomorrow, doctors will travel into the nest of my lungs with scopes, wearing face shields while I lie on a table floating in fentanyl, their voices a far-off cloud. But I say, like a tea, that in which the body steeps becomes its likeness. An African daisy, the color of raspberries, floats to my hip. I take it into my palm, bring it close to my face, then fingers along it like a harp. Petals fleshy as my own breast, soft as the skin behind one's knee, its black velvety center, a halo of bristle hugging a circle of tiny seed hairs. Protected, I think to myself, and only then do I see it, an eye in the middle. A dark, quartz-filled cavern, bright as my own iris, yet black and round as my own pupil looking back, batting its eyelashes at me. And here, hello. And I swear, I heard the monarch flutter, a bee buzz, heard the bird of me sing. I blushed, wanted to twirl my hair. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosa. That was beautiful. Rosa and I met sort of at the Hugo House at a virtual class run by the great Nikita Oliver. So it's just really great to reconnect with Rosa and be able to invite her into this community and to hear those beautiful poems. So thank you so much, Rosa, for that. So now we are going to go back to the videos, where our live magazine portion of the evening reemerges. Jalen Renee Fisk is a science fiction, fantasy, and horror author, and the fiction editor for James Gunn's Ad Astra magazine. She often explores themes of transformation and identity in her writing and loves all things unsettling and strange. Her debut short story collection, Side Quest Stories, was released in 2024 and won gold in the Reader Views Literary Award. Now with a reading from a work in progress called A Charnel House Called Home that involves Nordic runes and demonic possession, please welcome Jalen Renee Fisk.
Hi, Jalen Renee Fisk. I have read a couple times for collections, and this time I'm going to be reading a work in progress. So it's an unfinished story called A Charnel House Called Home, and it's a story. It starts out being about abandonment. So let's get started. Mom was the one who usually harvested the pears, starting in June when the first brave ones of the season turned a warm gold green. But now it was September, and they had mostly fallen uneaten to the ground. Wasps hovered like vultures, sucking on the warm juices. Melina watched from inside the house. The window panes were dimmed from rain spots, dust, and grime. She ran her fingers along the protective runes carved into the door and window frame, and walked out into the yard to save the last few pears still hanging on. 3 of them, soft and brownish green. She kept one in her hand, started eating right away, and tucked 2 in the front of her gray sweatshirt and folded the hem over like a little pouch. Mom used to do that. She used to bake them for breakfast on the weekends with honey and cinnamon inside. Melina entered the kitchen and searched for a place to put the pears. Stacks of greasy frying pans and soup-stained pots took over the sink. Dirty plates, cups, and utensils and knives covered the counters, and the spaces between were packed with newspapers and unopened mail. The air was stale and humid, sour. It didn't used to be such a mess. When Mom was there, the kitchen was always the one place kept free of clutter. Melina shoved some dishes aside and inverted her sweatshirt pouch to roll the pears onto the counter. By the time they came to a stop, the pear she held in her hand shriveled up, began to rot. She yelped and dropped it. It landed on the floor and seemed to melt into a mound of blackened sticks. Wasps buzzed desperately against the window, barking protective runes with each contact as they swarmed against the glass. Fancy, she yelled, and backed away until she hit a pile of books 6 feet high. The highest ones teetered and fell, but she covered her head and ducked out of the way where they landed. She was used to that kind of dodging. The books belonged to a parent, so they could never be moved. Everything remained just as it was when they left this time last year. Every box, every book, every scrap of paper. Fancy and she maneuvered around the hoard as if they lived in a cave packed with stalactites and stalagmites. Careful not to disturb their drowning. Fancy, he yelled again. Fancy's footsteps banged heavy on the steps as he came up from the basement. He swung the door wide. What? He said, himself wide-eyed and breathless as if he'd been running from something. His shirt was the same maroon shirt he'd worn for a week, his jeans for 2 months. Melina hadn't changed out of her sweatshirt for days. She kept saying it was time to do laundry, but he never made a move to do it, so neither did she. Fancy had recently turned 19, Melina 11. They were both summer babies. She ran to him and wrapped her arms around his waist. The pears, she said, trying to sound calm against her surging heartbeat. They turned bad as soon as I brought them inside. They look fine to me, he said, loosening her hold on him and gesturing at the 2 perfectly fine pears on the counter. Not those, that one. Melina pointed to the oozing mess on the floor. Weird, he said. Must be the rooms acting up. He studied the rooms etched into the wood of the window frame. At least they're keeping the wasps out. The buzzing grew to an almost deafening level. Melina covered her ears more for comfort than to block the sound. What do we do? Fancy turned and shrugged. Just stay inside. They'll go away eventually. What if they don't? Fancy tapped on the glass. Wasps die in winter. The kitchen continued to darken as more wasps latched onto the house, buzzing in the thousands until all trace of sunlight was blotted out. The windows turned as black as the putrid pear, the air as dank as a sewer. Winter was months away. Fancy walked to the basement door they were never allowed to open, and closed it on its creaking hinges. He turned the stiff lock, drummed his fingers on the door, lost in thought, until the eyes of the ancestors embedded in the wood blinked open. Thank you.
Caitlin also went to Goddard at the same time as me, and that's when I learned that she has a very strange and rather sick view of the world, and I love her for it. There are some of her bookmarks over by the door. I left some on the way out. There's like an area there with different cards, some of ours, and her bookmarks. If you're interested in some more of her stories, you can find them through the QR code on her bookmark, and also you'll have a bookmark, which of course as readers we always need. In addition to that, if you do follow this QR code or the one on the back of our card, you can find links to her website. You can find links to some of the other writers' websites tonight as well. And if you go into the archives, you can find more links there to all of the wonderful writers that come through collections. I want to make sure that I said that because it's important to me. We do have another reader. I'd like to bring him up now. Jason M. Thornberry is a disabled writer whose work appears in World Literature Today, Los Angeles Review of Books, Maudlin House, Folio Literary Journal, JMWW, Grub Street, Meeting House Magazine, Maryland Literary Review, North Dakota Quarterly, Welter, and elsewhere. He's currently seeking a home for his first novel. Jason lives in Seattle with his wife and dog. And here with a personal essay called The New Gary, please welcome Jason M. Thornberry.
First off, hi, and thanks to Ariel for putting this together. Wrote a memoir before the novel and just couldn't get anyone to put it out. So I did what any well-intentioned writer would do. I cannibalized it. I cut little essays out of it here and there, and I sent them hither and yon to various journals. And one of the first ones that I picked up in 2021, I think, right after I did my MFA, was this one, and is called The New Gary. It's from the memoir about surviving a traumatic brain injury. But this is not about that. This is about much lighter fare. So, when I was 5, I found myself in the back seat of my stepfather's VW Bug as we hurried to the hospital. My stepfather was in front, the passenger seat, his frantic heartbeat pumping thick gouts of blood from his Levi's. Blood seeped into his work boots, forming a puddle on the floor mat, making the interior of the car smell like a jar of pennies. He'd accidentally shot himself with this Colt 45 pistol a few feet from me. My stepfather and my father shared the same name, Gary. Before my father, my mother's first husband was also called Gary. And my first name was Gary, though I go by my middle name now. My stepfather, the new Gary, was originally from Kansas. The new Gary was 6'4" in his socks with long brown hair and a beard. The lace-up waffle stompers he wore made him even taller. My dad, he was 5'10" in cowboy boots. But my mother called her new Gary my Adonis. Brooding and unpredictable, the new Gary lifted weights in the humid garage, and he carried that Colt 45 everywhere, loading it and unloading it and loading it and unloading it and loading it and unloading it. While we watched TV in the den, everywhere he went. Angered by something my mother said one day next to him on the couch, he reached over and caved it in with his fist. Right from my head. Gary worked at a steel mill in Fontana before my grandfather got him a job driving locomotives for Southern Pacific. Gary kept company with an ill-tempered Doberman Pinscher with fangs and pointed ears like a scrawny wingless bat. Max was his name, and Max accompanied Gary everywhere, even when we went out for burgers. And in those days, the 1970s, when you went out for fast food, you took your order from a giant clown. I looked out the window and up at a pair of round blue eyes, a pointed green nose, a gaping red smile, curly green hair, all of it topped by a tapered yellow dunce cap. A sphere of glowing plastic, the clown's head rested atop an enormous cube actually. One side of the cube read, place order here, another displayed the menu. And I like to roll down my window in the back seat, wait for the clown to address me. Welcome to Jack in the Box. Can I take your order? Detaching himself from the driver's seat, Gary threw his muscular arms around the broad plastic head, and with a bare growl, he wrenched it free, decapitating the clown from the cube menu. Then he opened the passenger door and laid the clown's head, trailing fizzling wires, into the seat beside me and Max. The top of the clown's head brushed the roof as we drove away. And after we returned home with our burgers, Gary reached into the gaping orange hole at the bottom of the clown's head, installing a light bulb. And then he mounted it in the corner of my bedroom is my new lamp. As tall as Gary was, broken clouds encircled his head, and sometimes he seemed happy. Sometimes he played with me. Sometimes he called me Racing Jason. Sometimes he sang funny songs, especially "Watch Out Where the Huskies Go and Don't You Eat That Yellow Snow." It's Frank Zappa, if you don't know. Other times, the darkening clouds brought lightning, and instead of ghost stories, Gary scared me with the legend of his late father, a man who despised and tormented him, a man who hunted Gary and his little brother Dennis when they were small like me. The morning he shot himself, Gary grimaced, a kitchen towel tight around his trembling calf, a makeshift tourniquet. My mother was in the front seat, beside him, bolt upright, pushing the little yellow car into second gear, third gear, fourth gear, and I watched as red octagons and red lights whizzed past us to the hospital. When we arrived, I found a place to put myself out of the way and be quiet. My mother talks about how quiet I was as a little boy. You were such an angel then, so well behaved. We could take you anywhere and you just sit there and entertain yourself. Later, I remember going out to dinner with Mom and Gary. I must have been 6. Gary proudly wore his brand new leather jacket and a healthy layer of stink purdy. That's what he called cologne. In the booth I sat, quietly studying the menu as my mother and Gary gazed into each other's eyes, cooing softly as the restaurant bustled around them, waiters carrying dishes, busboys bussing tables and towels and all that shit. After we ordered, I occupied myself, rescuing a maraschino cherry from the depths of a glass of soda pop. With those skinny red straws, I foraged away, plunging the straw through the crushed ice, trying to bring that red cherry to the surface. Suddenly, the straw flexed and bounced, rocketing out of the glass and across the booth, spraying a dribble of soda across the front of Gary's brand new leather jacket. Mom does not remember Gary spanking my naked bottom when we got home that night, though she admits to retreating to various parts of the house, hands over ears whenever he did. But Gary kept that jacket. It stayed in his closet. And one day I came into the bedroom he shared with my mother. I saw it lying across the bed. Gary was thinking of giving it to his brother. So the stain was still there though, stretching along the lapel like a dark archipelago. So I ran to my bedroom and I fetched the globe, came back and spun it till my finger landed on a cluster of islands. The stain looked just like it. I said, "Tell Dennis it's an official jacket from the Philippines." We watched Tom and Jerry cartoons together the first time that day until Mom came home from work. I never got to see Gary smile again like that. Not long after, I moved in with my father and stepmother. And my mother divorced him. Thanks.
Thank you, Jason. I find it very nice when sort of, darker sorts of stories can be presented with humor. It's really wonderful. So super cool that Jason is part of our community. He found me just by emailing me, I suppose, through one of the cards or through the Hugo House or something. I'm so glad he did. That was a wonderful story, and we welcome you to the collections community. Next month, you'll see listed here, we have some great readers coming up. Liz Calabrew, Stephen Muir, Thomas Constam, Janine Walker, Mike Cohen, Natisari Puttavan, who actually works here as the events coordinator, and video readings from Shayna Turner out of New Orleans, and Alatisha Kyle Tiharina from, is it Province or Providence? It's, you know, the one in Rhode Island. I can never get it straight. I'll check the club. I'm just going to finish tonight out with a poem. I like to think it's a hopeful poem. We'll see what you think. It's called Pathway to the Stars. How can she dream to find a pathway to the stars? An astral migration rife with hope. She stands alone, annihilated by love gone lost. Storm clouds gathered and dashed hopes for a more perfect union. Her soaring heart is like Dorothy's house, flying out of Kansas over a tilting horizon, bound for beyond in a dizzying cyclone of ironic hopelessness. Who can she trust but a screaming, laughing clown, whisking by on a broom? He bares his teeth and tongue like a yawning hippo, bored and gored by the hope to frighten the sleep out of her. The demure and sleeping lady in the window who dreams with tightened face, with failing grace, who strains for gains and prays for hope. For inclusion, for her brand of love. Her house on the wind collapses and bashes. Who is she without her? Can she dream to find a pathway to the stars? Can she hope to be led back to herself by a yawning hippopotamus, nay, laughing clown? Mouth agape over the twisting horizon, turned, tilting, careening toward an emerald hope. What is left to gain when floating, globetrotting, discovering a world of technicolor, playing on the beach at sunset with a ragtag group of stargazers, but hope? What was there not to love about her too damn beautiful manufactured home, sent flying out of Kansas with a stroller in the yard, a barbecue pit out back, and hope oozing from its wood panels, an applewood smoking chimney made yet better by the kettle? She can dream of a pathway to the stars that meets her needs. She can hope for the revelation, the regeneration, sand in her toes. Stargazing from the beach in awe, she holds herself in the light of a too good moon rising redly over an overflowing ocean. I hit the old theme of the beach and I got the new theme of the laughing clown, so I nailed it. Thank you all so much for being here tonight. Thank you for the people on the live stream, and hope to see you next month. Thank you so much.
Oh, thanks. Cool. Like Detroit area. Oh, really? That's so funny.
Yeah, it's funny because I went once I realized I went to remember you from
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. You're what?
I'm from yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. I just met a guy from
looking at the drum implement, I thought it was the weirdest thing. Yeah. It is weird. It's a little, I don't know, I guess it'd be kind of like, I don't know. Oh, yeah, James. No,
Enjoy that. Everybody.
you too.
One line, but if you have to hurry in. That's over.
Oh, cool.
Thanks.
Yeah.
You were saying that you met one from.
Oh, yeah, it's just so crazy to me that he was like in his 70s and he had moved away a while before. But yeah, it's just so, I don't know, it's like, I'm trying to think of what it can compare to in Seattle. No, it's not like, it's a little exciting. There's a lot of
Yeah, I can't, it's hard for me to picture, like, my friend now lives in Dearborn. So
yeah.
I never like implement.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's pretty nice trip. I mean, it's like a really cute little kind of little town.
yeah.
But it's like, yeah.
I remember like the Italian delis, like the Italian.
Okay. Okay.
Let me know where you guys go get first.
Yeah, okay. Oh, yeah, I'll see you next week. Yeah.
I just remember the like we have
This guy. Yeah, he did. Yeah. Yeah, that's where I met him from. Yeah. Did you do that? Oh, you were? That's where I met him, because I did the program in Fort Townsend. Because they used to do it there. They used to have like a week-long writing. That was cool. No, we haven't moved them. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's so funny. You should find me.
Yeah.
It's nothing too weird about it, I don't think. I don't know. Did you go there? No.
I did put in Dearborn and
Yeah.
Detroit.
Yeah.
I used to live up in the EP for a little while.
Oh,
too.
you did?
But I'm from Wisconsin, so
Yeah.
I'm from La Crosse, so on the western side of Wisconsin.
Okay,
So
okay.
long as over there,
Okay.
closer to Minneapolis.
Okay.
But I remember it's like when I lived in the UP,
Yeah.
there was an Italian population there. We didn't have like a large, we don't have like.
There's a
we
lot
have,
of
like,
what?
like Italians.
Really?
And I was really, like, I was like, oh, I don't know, this is
Yeah.
like more like, it's like more German, Norwegian people.
Yeah.
So, and my friends who live,
I
you know.
remember a lot of people Italians.
Yeah, and then like I remember like and then my friend is Italian and her she has like Italian roots, like her family had Italian restaurants there like in generations. But she took me to like a really good Italian. I was like, yeah, it's like our Italian deli in Seattle is like posh. You know, it's like really nice and like
Yeah.
you can just go to like a
like the home one that's really good.
yeah. So it's just kind of like yeah. Anyway, I
And
just
then
like
Dearborn's like, that's like the highest, there's so many, Arabic.
Yes.
It's like the highest concentration of like, the biggest community in the country, I think, of like, Arabic.
Totally.
Yeah. Lots of good falafel.
She actually was like, before the election, she basically was like, I'm nervous because
Yeah.
you're going to be here. About, you know, Harris or, you know, something into it, but it's like, yeah, because it's like, you know, people there on the ground were
Yeah.
like, kind of support.
Yeah.
Kind
Last time I was there. Did you live in Mark?
Sorry, I wrote it down.
I'll change the subject. Good. Did you live in Marquette?
No, I lived in like Iron Mountain, Southern California.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, I lived at the dairy farm there.
Oh.
Kind of the boyfriend.
Oh. The Violet like the best?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. like maybe the last one. That's about just somebody at a bar. There's like, I don't know. Like I like the first one too. The middle one, yeah, I don't know. The middle one's. They're like wearing a cat. No, they're just like arguing. You know, they're not really even arguing. It's like he's kind of like.
I related a lot to the flicker of light, like the dark bar.
Yeah.
That is like such a hallmark of like when the
Yeah.
bar is like
Yeah.
light and like just like I feel like I've been in that bar.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. I was like,
yeah.
I was like, I'm gonna read short things like that. I need one that's like super heartbreaking, with like not funny at all.
Yeah, you did really nice. It's like you did a really nice job of like there's a lot of nuanced emotion.
Yeah, I try.
Like I feel like that's like very like you did a really good job.
Good.
I felt the nuance you
Yeah.
were going for.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
All the stuff.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Which one? This one.
All of them really. I mean,
Yeah. That's okay. I mean, that's the stuff I like, so.
Yeah.
I don't mind.
you know, in different ways. I mean, I think each one can try to stand alone in that
Yeah.
genre.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny, like, I wish I could make them longer, but I just can't. Yeah. Yeah, before. People, your husband, right, Ariel? He's such a so calm in there, such a good like kind of presence. I like yeah. Other people are really great. That's nice. Yeah. This is my first one. I would too. Yeah, if I was going to tell him if he wants to take any time, I don't know, like Jason. Well, my friend Greg is here, and he knows Jason Girl. I should go talk to Greg and see.
Oh, I tell you that, so there's like Gloria, but there are a lot of actually, are you mail order it all, or do you like want to go get it? Because there's a couple of really good like mail order options. There's one, I think he'd appreciate. Yeah, go ahead. So, okay, so do you know about USC and Portland? Okay, so that's a really good one. And when you go there to Portland, they have union bagels. They have union bagels that they'll ship. And so I highly recommend that. They have breads too, but their breads are good, but they're really great. And then there's things that I sourdough bakery from Virginia. I love. My friend lives there. And I bought and then like I said, I do a lot of my own eating. So this is called the Homestead Oven. I think you can order up to like 4 loaves from there. And like I said, like I highly recommend this. That's the sourdough. Finally, there's one more that I would recommend. It's called Mariposa, and it's in Oakland. And that's really good for, my friends are fine, but yeah, that's a really good one to order, like, sweets, or like, things like that, they have their macaroons. And they have a lot of others, they have a bunch, and like, things like that, so. I was actually thinking I may put together like a cheat sheet for this type of thing, where it's like, oh, let's give you this resource list. Because like I do a lot of, I basically travel for food. And I love food for you, obviously, and I love bread, so. No, I made chicken premium, so the second, I made my free, they have really good food. I love the food industry. I've been in the industry for a long time, and just like it, like more money and more stability.
I heard it's really hard.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you had big enough. I didn't have to fight when I was 7, but you're kind of eat stuff all the time. But yeah, a lot of bakers, especially bread bakers. Yeah, also had your stepson. I always get up. Gloria has pretty exciting, but her that company has. She does baguettes. She does bagels. Really expensive. She has these bagels. Down in Portland.
So it's Gloria.
Yeah, and she's
It's hard to say.
Yeah, Gloria. I think it's just called Gloria. Yeah. What neighborhood are you in? What neighborhood are you in?
Oh, Capitol.
Okay, so yes, you can get a Melrose Market. It'll be one for mailing list on your website.